Hey there, friends. David, Lightbringer here. And, Westeros is a land with many gods. We've got the 7 gods of the Andal faith of the 7. We've got the many green seer spirits sort of floating around in a kind of mind soup inside the Weirwood net, known collectively as the Old Gods. We've got the Drowned God and the Storm God of Ironborn theology, and their East Coast narrow sea variants, the Lady of the Waves and the Lord of the Skies, worshipped on the Three Sisters, as well as the gender-reversed but more or less similar pairing worshipped in the ancient Stormlands known simply as the Sea God and the Goddess of the Waves, the parents of fair Elenai. We've got ancient First Men worshipping Garth the Green, or maybe just the Green Men. And now we've even got Relorists running around Westeros preaching about their fire god. However, the gods that Egg met on episode 3 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms are far older than any of those. First, Egg and we the audience encountered Odin, the Norse god of shamanic madness and war and many other things, who was, of course, embodied by Sir Robin Rhysling. And then later, of course, Dunk and Egg chanced upon the soothsayer Woods Witch, whom you could name as one of the Norns or the Greek Hecate, all of whom are figures heavily tied to fate. That's a Norns weaving fate joke, as well as death, the afterlife, the future, and magic. Now, if I know my audience, and I do know my audience, many of you at home were no doubt pointing at the screen and shouting some version of that last sentence to your nearby friends and loved ones. So let's do a quick unpacking of what these figures mean in the context of the episode, and why it's so cool that the show is working with such mythological VIPs as Odin, Hecate, and the Norns, much in the same way that George is doing in the books. And I guess to give the lousy Faith of the Seven some credit, this is a version of Odin essentially synonymous with the warrior. And this is a soothsayer who obviously is meant to embody the crone, but you could also say that that version of the warrior sure looks a lot like Odin, which again is something many of you were probably muttering under your breath during the episode. So again, my name is David. Thanks for clicking on my channel. And if you like this sort of mythical archetypal analysis that I've been doing for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, then please do make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you never miss a video. Leave a comment on the way out. And oh yeah, click that thumbs up button so that YouTube knows you want to see my videos in your feed. All right, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Episode 3 was called The Squire, and with all due credit to Raymond Fossaway's very creative anti-Targaryen rant about how they're blood-magicking tyrants and incestuous aliens, the title The Squire is clearly referring to Egg, who turns out to be a little more than a squire. Wouldn't you know it? Egg is Dunk's squire, or at least a prince posing as Dunk's squire, and he begins the episode by sneaking out for a bit of squiring. Squiring and theft. Squiring and theft. But hey, it's not theft if you mean to put it back, right? And truly, Egg is not so much stealing Dunk's horse and sword as he is practicing without permission, which could also be described as taking the initiative to learn how to do what you need to do. So Egg, he's having a great time horse whispering and doing his Avatar Aang Airbender routine, when who should come along but brave Sir Robin Rhysling, who's much braver than brave Sir Robin from Monty Python. Brave Sir Robin ran away. Robin Rhysling is apparently known as the maddest knight in all of the Seven Kingdoms for sake of having continued on in a joust after he had his eye put out by the shard of a broken lance. That's it hanging on his cheek there. And shout out to the Teocellus sheep from Alien Earth. You can see the strong likeness. And much like that messed up demon sheep, Sir Robin Rhysling is possessed. And you'll have to watch Alien Earth to figure out why the sheep is possessed. But the point is, Robin himself says it when Egg names him as the maddest knight in all of the Seven Kingdoms. He says that we, meaning knights, are vessels for the warrior. When it is madness bid, it is madness delivered. So the first layer of meaning here is that Sir Robin feels that when someone is fighting, they are essentially incarnations of the warrior. And since the warrior demands courage and bravery, even to the point of madness, that's what he delivered when the moment required it. So it's a simple message about rising to the occasion when duty calls, and that's exactly what Egg is himself here preparing to do by practicing his squiring. And he's even preparing the horse to rise to the occasion and do what he has to do. You know, it's pretty cute. Egg sitting there telling him the Dunk only has the 2 of them, and he'll do his best to get the weapon in Dunk's hands, and then the rest is up to Thunder. So he's given himself a pep talk, he's given Thunder a pep talk, and what's happening from a storytelling perspective here is pretty great. This is essentially Egg being visited by the gods on the eve of battle. Both Robin Rhysling and the Soothsayer are incarnations of the gods, and they're guiding and inspiring Egg's path with these omens and portents. After all, it is a bit mad for a puny, 9-year-old boy to run around on a battlefield amidst all these knights and horses and things trying to squire for Dunk. And it was also a bit mad for Dunk to roll up to Ashford Meadow without any money, armor, or anyone to sponsor him. In other words, Robin Rhysling appearing as the warrior incarnate is a good omen, a blessing of courage and battle madness bestowed on Egg when that's exactly what he's trying to muster up. Later on, Egg encounters the soothsayer who is embodying the crone, and the major thing we know about the crone is that she holds up a lamp of wisdom which presumably enables her to see the future, and we're also told that she opened the door of death to let the first raven into the world, which means she has some sort of power over the door of death and can open or close it. Accordingly, the prophecy that she gives Egg foresees his death, and that's obviously a less hopeful portent. There was the part about him being king, that's pretty awesome, but everyone being glad that you're dead, that's not so good. It's effectively the same narrative device here as with Robin Rhysling. Strangers showing up, cosplaying as the divine, and guiding the path of young Egg. And they are, again, also inspiring Egg to courage, and notably the episode ends with Egg stepping into his power as a Targaryen Prince of the Blood, interceding in the violence wrought by Aerion to command the soldiers and save Dunk from being stage curb stomped. That's right, a little Targaryen History X almost broke out, but thankfully it did not, because you only need to see that movie once. And in all seriousness, it did take a lot of courage for Egg to face up to his elder brother, who, at least in the book version of things, has abused Egg in the past, and who is obviously violent and cruel and a bit unstable. That was the point of putting Egg's encounter with Robin Rhysling as the warrior and Odin at the beginning of the episode, as a way of externalizing the idea of Egg finding his battle courage. All right, now let's talk about why this version of the warrior, the Faith of the Seven, was in fact Odin in disguise. That's what Odin does, by the way. He walks around in disguise. And whether he's posing as an old man or a young man or a woman or a horse, he's always going to have one eye, just like Sir Robin Rhysling. Most commonly, Odin walks the land as an old man with a long white beard and a pointed hat and a staff. Basically Gandalf the Grey, who is more or less a direct copy of Odin. And not to be outdone, George has his own direct copy of Odin, that's Bloodraven, obviously. And Bloodraven, too, is known to walk the land in disguise. No spoilers for... well, if you know, you know. Hashtag always watching, hashtag always listening. And Bloodraven also eavesdrops and spies on people using, crows and ravens and God knows what else. Odin, meanwhile, has the ravens, Hunin and Munin, whose names mean thought and memory or mind. And yes, that is why I'm wearing my Birds Destroy Your Mind t-shirt, because Odin is the mad god, and his mind is a bird. And obviously that's a metaphor for the shaman's thoughts or spirit, astral projecting out into the world and flying. So you can see that brave Sir Robin, who's named after a bird, by the way, has the hoary white beard, he's got the eye patch, and he's got the Odin staff. So to be honest, if this was the show American Gods, you'd almost call this too easy as far as spotting Mr. Wednesday in disguise. And of course, Wednesday is derived from Odin's Day. Sir Robin doesn't just look like Odin, however, his talk equating battlefield courage with madness. Well, that's basically the Odin doctrine in brief. The Norse associated the concept of madness with three things that they saw as similar. Number one, the state of poetic or artistic inspiration, which they associated with the meat of poetry. That's a kind of madness, so think of when you're working frantically on a project and you're ultra inspired. Number two, the trance state induced by shamans in order to see into the future or commune with the spirits of the dead. And number three, the frenzied state that warriors enter into, where their senses and strength are heightened by adrenaline and need, the need to not die. So this spirit of madness and inspiration was called Other, and it is after this spirit that Odin is named. So he is the god of such madness, or the mad god. So Norse warriors before and presumably during battle might pray to Odin so that this spirit of Other would descend upon them and inspire them to great feats. So again, Robin Rhysling talking about how all knights and combatants are really incarnations of the warrior, and about how when madness is called for, madness is delivered. Well, it's not a coincidence that he's saying all this stuff while cosplaying Odin. That's all I'm saying. And then real quickly, we should contrast this spirit of Other as being very different than the Targaryen madness, so to speak, which is often associated with cruelty and psychopathy. And of course, here we're talking about Maegor the Cruel, who did not save House Targaryen, by the way, Mad King Aerys, and now Aerion Brightflame. And if you want a spoiler-heavy the Life and Times of Mad Aryan Brightflame video. It's right there, waiting for you. So as many of you will know, Odin is a one-eyed god because he traded one of his eyes to Mimir for a sip from his well, which gives Odin and anyone who drinks from it future sight. Odin is trading in his physical sight for spiritual sight, in other words. And the metaphor here is just about sacrificing things of the flesh, of the physical world, for gifts and power in the spirit world. This is a key theme of shamanic beliefs and practices, and George has Bran doing that exact thing by having Bran lose physical mobility, his legs, but gaining spiritual mobility through the Weirwood net. And that's what Bloodraven is referring to when he says, "You will never walk again, but you will fly." So Robin Rhysling obviously didn't gain prophetic vision by losing his eye in a jousting accident, but he did win fame and renown. And those are also very important concepts in Norse culture, or really any warrior culture or group. It's better to die bravely in battle than to surrender or run away like a brave Sir Robin ran away. I knew it would come back. So Robin Rhysling, he's the maddest knight in the Seven Kingdoms in the classic Odinic sense. He is the one who best embodies the spirit of Other. Now, the last lines in the exchange between Egg and Sir Robin are also important and also relate to fame and renown. Robin says of this Sir Duncan the Tall that we've never heard of him, and Egg responds that you will. Note Robin using the plural or royal we in that sentence as if he speaks for the host of gods, or even for the collection of frenzied spirits called Wothu, who may well be a predecessor and an inspiration for the god form of Odin, and those are actually the spirits of the Wild Hunt, which Odin is later regarded as leading. Wothu aside, the point of Egg saying to Sir Robin that he will know Dunk's name soon is that if you're a warrior, it's important for Odin to know your name. The Valkyries, after all, collect the spirits of the bravest slain warriors from the battlefield and bring them to Odin's hall, Valhalla, where they await rebirth as Odin's army of Einherjar warriors, who will fight with Odin at Ragnarok. So, will Dunk gain battlefield courage and then fame and renown at Ashford Meadow, like Sir Robin Rhysling did at his tourney? Well, maybe not just like that, but you know what I mean. Robin Rhysling's House Rhysling coat of arms may be another hopeful portent here. It's an oaken door banded in iron, which would seem a reference to the old Westerosi saying, "Oaken iron guard me well, or else I'm damned and doomed to hell." The rhyme is talking about an oaken iron shield keeping a warrior safe and not dead. And as anyone who's read the Dunk and Egg novellas knows, this is a mantra that Dunk repeats to himself all the time, basically anytime he goes into battle. In other words, Sir Robin is a vision of just what Dunk is going to need: mad battlefield courage and trust in an oaken iron shield. And then finally, it's pretty cool that Robin Rhysling appears as Odin as Egg is handling the horse Thunder, because the horse Thunder is kind of a reference to Odin's tree, Yggdrasil, which translates to Odin's horse because by being hung upon the tree, he's riding the tree like a gallows horse. And Yggdrasil is known as the wind-rocked or storm-rocked tree. So it's a stormy tree and a horse that Odin rides, and Dunk is riding a horse called Thunder. And then, of course, no spoilers here, but in the third Dunk and Egg novella, he is called the Gallows Knight because he temporarily has this shield with a hanged man on it. But that hanged man is just another reference to Odin, who, again, was hung on Yggdrasil, the thunderous, stormy tree. And Dunk's other horse is also a tree. He's named Chestnut. So now that we've covered all that, let's talk about the soothsayer crone and her prophecies of doom and spoiler. Hey there, friends. David coming to you from the future. You could tell the candles are shorter. And I am here to tell you that the second half of this video is going to be its own video, as you could tell from the runtime below, because I realized I could put out the Odin part of this on Thursday morning. And so I went ahead and did that. And so yeah, the second half of this video will be out on Friday or Saturday. And of course, with episode 4 coming out early, me and Tim and Estella Graves are going to do our post-game show on Saturday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. So I will see you Saturday afternoon for that breakdown. And then, yeah, I'll have the Crone, Hecate, Norn stuff to you, potentially out by then. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you very soon.